Well, the Northern Territory general election is now just 2 weeks away as the top-end Labor government looks to hold on to power. But with just 3 parties contesting and a handful of opinion polls, the contest is going under the radar. 6 News spoke with election analyst Dr Kevin Bonham to discuss the state of the race.
In terms of the Greens, we'll start there, right? They've never had a seat in the NT Parliament. That is the only state or territory parliament they've never been represented in. They've got a couple of councillors at the moment, and they do have somewhat good votes in a couple seats, including, I believe, the seat of Natasha Files. Are they a chance at all to finally pick up something? Because this is their only chance. There is no upper house they can swoop in and get some votes in the NT.
But they are making a big effort. I think this is going to be their biggest campaign so far, from what I hear from people on the ground in terms of the kinds of door-knocking effort that they're putting in and so on. There are a few seats where they tend to poll about 20 or so. Rockliff was one of those. Problem is that it's been a very safe Labor seat, so they haven't been able to win it so far. I don't have any particular seat on my radar that they're likely to win, but they do seem to be coordinating well with the independents in terms of targeting different seats and so on. So we will see.
Now, this election seems to be Labor's to lose at this point. They've obviously been in for quite some time. They were obviously out. We saw with the CLP about a decade ago, but that, it didn't last long. Longer story that we could, of course, go into. Where do you rate in terms of their chances at the moment? Because really, again, when you consider that it is, a single house, single member electorates, it's going to be, and mind you, like a really small amount of seats as well. It's looking like either it's just going to go minority government or CLP based off, I'm going off the vibes. What do the actual stats tell us?
But one thing I've noticed in looking at NT elections, people sort of poke fun at NT elections and say, "Oh, there's hardly anybody votes there." It's like they're like council elections. They're like a small council in some other parts of the country. But they do actually behave in some ways like state elections. They follow the same trend as state elections in terms of it's a disadvantage if the same party is in power federally. So when it's now a disadvantage for Labor that they are in government federally, that's alone, plus the fact that they've been in power for 8 years, and it's also been a scrappy term for them. There's sort of the cases where the government has 3 leaders in the one term. It's not a very common thing, and it's usually associated with a bad result.
Yeah, absolutely. We all saw what happened with Natasha Files. You have to remember that resignation was actually only just a few months ago, relatively. If Labor does end up losing here, be that somewhat significantly or in a landslide, and we'll get to the polling in a moment, but would that mean anything, or should we read anything into the next federal election for that? Let's say it's held in May 2025, as is somewhat likely. There are only 2 House seats in the NT. The Senate, of course, is evenly split, always has been really with ALP, CLP, and the Senate won't be expanding in the NT. Should Labor be concerned federally if this territory result goes wrong for them?
I wouldn't read too much into that. It can even be, if that does happen, it can even be that voters use the territory election to let off steam and then go back to voting how they would have in the federal election. Usually the causality works the other way around, like federal politics influences state election results. The influence of state and territory election results on federal politics is a lot less clear. Sometimes you see something. I take it more if Labor does lose, it's an interesting pointer towards Queensland and an interesting pointer towards what will happen in other state elections while Labor is in power.